Where are we looking beyond banking?
You've got to look at fragmentation, haven't you, and stuff. So we talk about cross-border as well, and Lauren was really correct to say it's not just about foreign transactions, but there's a lot of people making a lot of money out of FX. It's a very, very lucrative business. I think if you look at sort of the core banks in the UK, take the big six, you've got lending is the pillar of salt of banking, you've got liabilities, and you've got FX and, non-interest based revenue. MasterCard are on the phone as well. They must make a reasonable, probably a very reasonable amount of money out of it. So you're going to have a lot of resistance for people wanting to change your markets. So you need to look at the markets and look at the industries that are losing something from it, and they're actually not benefiting from it. And I think a very, very good one is energy. From what we've just seen through the political climate of the last couple of years, through the pipeline that's gone down, I'm afraid the name of it escapes me as well, from look at what we're doing shipping in coal in Poland, and we've got countries that are bringing energy across in those commodities as well. It's a real classic one. Lord Holmes did his trade bill, the electronic trade bill. And one of the first key steps, and this actually backs up what Lauren's just said, I'm going to criticise myself, is it's the acceptance of an electronic document as opposed to a physical document. Now, we've only just got in the UK to the point where we can use an electronic signature, a thumbprint, or a password to say I want to give consent. And that step in itself for me is absolutely seismic that changes what we can do across the world. We've got to get to where we look at these industries where the exchange of information can be given on a digital consent. And you can only do that within interoperability and within an ecosystem. But for me, when we look at those, classic ones are energy. Commodities are obviously very, very, very key to this as well. The next issues in the world will run around commodities. If we look across at Suez at the moment and what's happening there. And I think the really obvious one we're going to have as well is items that are tokenized. So I'm not talking about the monkey or that chap that sat on the bench as well, or a Jack Petriano that's there as well, but we will have tokenized commodity that never actually reaches us, but there is ownership for it. And I think that's it as well. But the options are limitless. I think there's a never-ending list.
I don't think a week goes by where someone doesn't talk to me about tokenization. So we'll all be tokenized someday. So Lauren, what about beyond banking? What are some of the industries where you're seeing beyond banking driving this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the real kind of value in open banking is the convergence of banking and payments with other industries, right? I mean, a payment is essentially the end result of a business process. So, you look at heavily paper-based industries, you take at land ownership, trade finance or logistics, I think they're huge areas where open data can add real value. I think because they are paper-based means the size of the prize is massive, but also the route to get there is challenging. So I think, things like supply chain, logistics, trade, huge value. Things like advertising and royalty distribution is another area that I think, a huge money making industry, advertising, the likes of Google, Apple make most of their money from that. So I think, those are the types of industries that I can see real value. And I think they can learn from what we've done in open banking and apply it, the good bits at least, in their industries. And I think the real value, like I say, is the convergence of open banking into other areas.
So these are the questions that I think we're going to have everyone chime in on. So David, I'd love to hear your views on beyond banking and some of the industries driving them.
Yeah, I think Lauren touched on it. There's data. I think that's where bringing together the power of the data that is in the banking industry with utilities, with the pension schemes, with property, whatever it is, pulling all of that together, I think that's where some really powerful propositions will come from. And I think being able to do some of that internationally, again, is sort of repeating those models and being able to do that on a consistent basis, I think will be really important. And I think that the challenges within data are quite big around how do you make sure you get consistency of data. There's always going to be unique data for different markets or different sectors, but then making sure that the underlying core bits of identification information is common will be the kind of the important bits to really drive that kind of international sort of data exchange and the propositions that come off the back of it.
So Tom, what do you think? What are some of the industries you're seeing outside of banking driving this?
Yeah, I think there's probably a need for it to be quite pragmatic, because I think there's it's easy to get quite visionary about the extent of that kind of opening up across non-financial services verticals. But what we've seen from the open banking journey is that significant kind of workload in getting there and then refining and kind of discovering what works. I guess I'd like to see probably quite a kind of thoughtful approach to what are some of the big societal pain points that we can start to address through this in cost of living crisis, in kind of energy poverty, etc., and starting to kind of go after some of those kind of use cases that help people navigate quite kind of difficult commercial structures, find their way to getting the best deal, find their way to kind of living more kind of economically sustainable lives, and maybe there's some kind of scope to go after some of those use cases. So is it in the grocery segment or the fuel segment, etc.? Maybe some of those things could come first.